And we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another one of the NPCs Weekly News Roundup. It is, let me look at my watch here. It's August 21st, 2020. I can't believe I keep on forgetting the date. I do it when we're recording the podcast. I get it when we're doing this. I can't ever remember the date. My name is Travis, of course, and as always, via Discord, because we're in the midst of a global pandemic and everybody's blowing up right now, it's Kyle.
What's up?
By the way, no, it is not confirmed that blowing up is one of the symptoms of COVID-19. So this is not for medical advice. This is all about gaming. Consult your doctor if you have problems with exploding. In tonight's news, of course, we've got more in the war between Apple and Epic Games. Some strange but crazy cool looking glitch in Microsoft Flight Simulator that's neat to look at. Microsoft debuted the UI for the Xbox Series X. And finally, of course, we got an announcement on the next Call of Duty game, so we're going to talk all about that. Of course, let's go ahead and roll that intro, and we'll get things started. All right, so into our first story of the night, and of course, this is the continuation of all the big things that are going on right now. This one's from IGN. Apple counters Epic's antitrust arguments, says Epic requested a special deal. And of course, we got an update with some tweets here, of course, to go through. So, kind of in the grand saga of what's been going on with Apple and Epic Games, of course, continuing from last week. We're now in the midst, of course, of a larger battle that now relates to not only Epic's developer accounts, but also any developer who uses Unreal Engine in their games, which is actually a big deal. So the story goes on to say, Apple has responded to Epic's antitrust lawsuit in a legal filing made public today that says Epic did request a special deal from Apple, contrary to what Epic CEO Tim Sweeney has said publicly. As reported by CNBC, former Apple Senior Vice President Phil Schiller wrote that on June 30th, 2020, Epic CEO Tim Sweeney wrote my colleagues and me in email asking for a special deal that would fundamentally change the way in which Epic offers apps on Apple's iOS platform. Specifically, Apple claims that Epic requested to offer an Epic Game Store app on the App Store that would let iOS users install apps directly from Epic and bypass Apple's payment processing options. Apple goes on to say that Epic's request for an injunction to stop Apple would remove Epic's developer account isn't valid, as any harm from happening to Epic is self-inflicted. All of the injury Epic claims to itself, game players, and developers could have been avoided if Epic filed its lawsuit without breaching its agreements. All of the alleged injury for which Epic improperly seeks emergency relief could disappear tomorrow if Epic cured its breach. So if we scroll up here, of course, there's been an update to the story that IGN has posted, and again, this is across the board for what everybody else has posted too. I'll actually go ahead and open up the tweet here, and we'll look at the first one. So this was dated June 30th, 2020, just as Apple's Phil Schiller had said. Dear Tim, Phil, Craig, and Matt, because of restrictions imposed by Apple, Epic is unable to provide consumers with certain features in our iOS apps. We would like to offer consumers the following features. It goes on to talk about competing payment processing other than Apple payments, and then competing Epic Game Store app available through the iOS App Store, and then allows direct installation. And then if Epic were allowed to provide these options to iOS device users, consumers would have an opportunity to pay less for digital products and developers would earn more from their sales. Epic's requesting that Apple agree in principle to permit Epic to roll out these options for the benefit of all iOS customers. We hope that Apple will also make these options equally available to all iOS developers in order to make software sales and distribution on the iOS platform as open and competitive as it is on personal computers. So that's an interesting, of course, email to them from Tim Sweeney. Yeah, so this kind of just jumped all over the place, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, these emails are kind of just all over the place here. I'm just not going to really go through all those emails. That's just, it's just chaos, one thing after the other. So let's kind of break down exactly what Epic's been asking for and exactly where things are at right now. So, just as it said there, they were looking at making a competing App Store type platform for the iPhone, and of course the iPad, which has never been done before, other than any of the things we talked about in the previous newscast, which really revolved around jailbreaking and installing Cydia and any of the other, third-party app stores to allow for putting stuff on your iPhone. But for the layman, that's not something that can just that people will just go and do. They just want their iPhone to be able to download apps and do what they want it to do. That's it. Epic basically went to Apple and said, we would like you to offer us the concessions to basically put a app store of our own on the iPhone or within iOS in general, and give us the ability to install our applications without you, so you don't make money off of us and we make all the money. That's if I'm saying anything wrong there, Kyle, please jump in and correct me, but I really think that's what it's come down to, is that's what they asked about.
That's kind of what I understood it as.
Yeah, and so that's way out of the realm of possibility anyway, with the way Apple has the OS locked down, especially in their efforts for consumer privacy. I mean, you see them talking all the time about how they handle consumer privacy with the way things are locked down in the first place, how they really can't get anything out of iMessage anyway. For them to get into your cloud account, they need that warrant, and then they can go through and do stuff. But there's no actual way for them, based on their privacy controls, to get in. But for them to offer Epic a way to get in and offer that level of OS access that the App Store would need to be able to install applications, it just won't happen. Apple's very protective of their platform, and they always have been. And that's just silly on Epic to think that would happen. But at the same time, as Kyle and I are Android users, and I am also a previous iOS user, I do have an iPad, so I do have to go through the App Store. We do know, as Android users, though, we can get applications through third party. We can go and download the APK, the Android package, which is their actual install file. We can download that and install the game or app or whatever it is. Of course, it's at our own risk. We can use something like the Amazon App Store to download games and apps directly from Amazon if we wanted to. We've got the Play Store, which is the centralized hub that Google controls and, of course, considers to be the safe point. Considers to be the one where they scan all their applications. Okay, so Android definitely has a lot of things that are open about it, but it's built on a different platform than iOS is. And it was built differently in the first place, is that Apple wanted to keep things locked down into them, and Google with Android really wanted to keep things open. And that's why we've had so many things happen with it. That's why you don't see a Samsung iPhone. You don't see an LG iPhone. You don't see a Huawei iPhone. You see Apple iPhone. Okay. So what I'm reading here based on these emails is, first and foremost, that, yeah, Epic did kind of shoot itself in the foot and knew it was going into this battle. No, like fists were going to be flying no matter what. But unfortunately, they're not doing a very good job blocking and dodging, and they're getting the crap kicked out of themselves. The other part of it, though, is that because they didn't go the right way about this, and of course the emails are out now too, it does lead into that antitrust stuff against Apple, though, which they're being investigated for by the SEC, not necessarily the SEC, but the FTC. They're being investigated by, of course, a bunch of different congressional panels as well too. There was an actual panel several weeks ago that I listened to, and the whole point of it, of course, was about the way Apple handles charging developers, and the rates there too, and then of course some of the little special circumstances that go along with like what they had set up for Amazon. So it's kind of it's a very interesting situation for both sides of it. You've got Apple, who's doing the part to protect their platform, but of course is locking it out, saying you either use it's this way or the highway. And then you got Epic coming around saying, well, they won't let us do this, but we're going to go about this in the wrong way and break the terms of service and get ourselves screwed over. So that's the main gist of it. And Kyle, I don't know if you saw about the developer accounts though, but when they were talking about the developer accounts in a previous story, which honestly, guys, like if you're watching this right now, like there's news everywhere about this, but apparently it was also going to affect any app developer. They didn't have to be an Epic Games developer, but any developer that was using Unreal Engine in their game could also be affected by some sort of shutdown, which you're talking like 7 million different developers, apparently. which,
That's
you know,
insane.
because you're talking developers from just the individual person who codes and creates games in their in their basement or in their free time doing whatever,
Especially
all the way up to
because
your larger
Unreal
groups.
Engine is free to use, right?
It is. It's free to use. I think up to a point. Like you have to. I think it's
Right.
if it's X amount of downloads or X amount of whatever it is that uses it, then yeah, it's free. Otherwise, then you start charging. But you remember back when the iPad first came out, and there was that game that Epic actually came out and showed off on stage. What was it? Infinity Blade. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They have like 3 of them for the iOS?
they do, and then we haven't seen anything since then. And now what it's become actually is it's actually an arcade game in Dave and Buster's now, where you sit there and
Wow.
you actually do the swiping motions, of course, over a big, basically iPad style, touchscreen, and you're actually playing that game there. It's a port of it, but it still at least comes up that it is built on the Unreal Engine with Epic Games. But that's the thing is that it's like they've had such a rich history together, of course, that it's now finally coming to a head with all of these different antitrust things going on. That they're basically shooting each other in the foot and then shooting themselves in the foot at the same time with the way things are going. And I think this just does looks bad on both of them, honestly. I don't know what more there is to say about it. I mean, Kyle, what do you think? I think Epic is actually in the wrong. I think Epic's not going to really come out ahead on this one. I think they're just going to end up getting the shaft, and Apple I think is going to get it too. So, what do you think? What else do we got going on with this then?
Um, I this is something that other companies have tried to tackle before with Apple, and people have criticized Apple in the past, and nothing has ever come of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think for Epic, even now to try and go after them, uh, it I think it's just greedy because they see the amount of revenue that they generate from Fortnite and on mobile devices, and yeah, they would make more, but I mean it's one thing you got to think about. Apple, hosts all that. They
Mm-hmm.
host the updates for all the Epic products that, like Fortnite.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit of a fair trade-off to, say, oh, we're going to take that 30% of your revenue, for the free game that you put out on our service,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're hosting it, we're updating it, we're allowing you to do that, and it is, something when you think about it, because Apple, like you said, is very locked down.
Yeah.
Um, I
It
don't know.
it just really seems like it's a bad deal for both sides, and I think this looks really partially silly on Epic with the way they went about doing this. At the same time, this does not bode well for Apple. I think we're actually probably going to see some actual antitrust action by the government probably here sometime in the next year. At least
I
maybe not
kind of
starting with
wonder.
Apple, but probably they're going to be one of them though.
I kind of wonder if this has anything to do with the Epic Game Store, and do they see like a significant profit from games being on the Epic Game Store? Because they give a lot of games away for free. Like they just gave away Troy Total War for free day
Mm-hmm.
one only, but they gave it away for free.
Right, and it's not
Now,
like they're baking ads in or something to the game's code. So like while you're playing, it's
right.
like, oh, here's a Fortnite V-Bucks ad in the top right
And
corner of
it
your
makes me
screen.
wonder, do they think they could benefit from having their own platform on the iOS? Is that what it comes down to?
That's actually a great
Um,
question.
and I don't necessarily see them getting too much of a benefit, even if it had like crossplay, because
Mm-hmm.
people are still going to flock to the App Store because of the security of it.
Exactly.
When you buy into Apple products, you buy into that ecosystem, you buy into the security of the ecosystem,
Yep.
and that's kind of what an Apple product is about. So if you're thrown into the mix of an Apple product, I don't think you'd want to really go and screw that up.
Mm-mm. No, I don't think so either. Because, like you said, it is all intertwined. That you can have your iPhone and your iPad sharing apps together. At the same time, you can have your iPhone linked to your MacBook or your iMac or your Mac Pro or whatever, whichever version of Mac that it is, and be able to kind of sync those up so you can interact with your phone while you're on your computer, and
Hmm.
vice versa. Yeah, exactly. It's such an intertwined ecosystem. And then the level of security, of course, is always going to be key. That's the big thing that they've been pushing for, is privacy and security. I just see this as the most interesting battle, or at least interesting step in this battle, of course, for what's going on with Apple right now, at least as it relates to the antitrust problems. I just think this is silly for Epic the way they went. Shame on Apple, of course, for the way they went as well. And this just puts fuel in the fire that is their antitrust investigation. So it's just time now is all it is. We just have to wait
Yeah.
for to see how the FTC handles this. Does the Sherman Antitrust Act actually play into all of this as well too? Does it finally actually meet the criteria of actually falling in as a monopoly of some type? And then what happens next? You know, I think you're going to end up probably seeing a lot of pissed off iOS users, especially if that operating system changes to basically hurt the level of privacy that and security that they've been so used to for all of these years.
And honestly, I don't think Apple would do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see them changing for that. I think eventually, no matter what, um, Epic will have to succumb in some way to Apple, because if they want their product on there, they've got to be part of the ecosystem. They've got to be a team player.
Oh, agreed,
Eh,
100%.
So I don't know. We'll see what the future holds on that one, I guess. But
Agreed. Yeah. All right. Well, let's carry on to the next one here, and I'm going to be honest with you. I've been playing Flight Simulator. I did not actually come across this, and unfortunately, I won't be able to because I'm sure the update is queued. So, Kyle, talk to us about this one here. This one's from Engadget. A typo created a 212-story monolith in Flight Simulator.
the building soars like a Tower of Babel over a quiet Melbourne suburb,
Jesus.
so to speak. This is a super interesting one, and I do want to preface everything by saying this isn't the only one that I've seen like this. There are other weird situations. But Microsoft's latest flight simulator entry doesn't do anything small. It's a title that comes on 10 DVDs and allows you to explore the world in almost its entirety. It turns out that scale even extends to its accidental inclusions. Flight Simulator uses recently found and unusual landmarks, a 212-story monolith towering over an otherwise nondescript suburb in Melbourne, Australia.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah. After some sleuthing, the titles community found what caused the tower to appear in Flight Simulator. When developer Asobo Studio built its detailed recreation of the globe, they pulled data from OpenStreetMap, a free map of the world to which anyone can contribute. About a year ago, a user named Nathan Wright 120 added a tag that said this one building in Melbourne had 212 floors instead of two. Based on their contributions, it appears that the edit was a simple typo, not them trying to mislead anyone. Their error was later corrected by another OpenStreetMap contributor, but not before it made its way into Flight Simulator. We've reached out to Microsoft to find out if the company plans to remove the building from Flight Simulator, and we'll update the article when we hear back. Of course, it's kind of more of their jargon going on about the article. But other things that have happened, I guess, in New Zealand, in one spot, if you spawn in, uh, New Zealand is like hovering basically above the ocean. or at least it was on one person's game.
I saw some of that. I was actually trying to figure it out, and then was it also New Zealand, or was it also the because there's like some other type of like lake that looked like it was up there too, like in size, like it looked like it was, here's the ground and here's the lake, thousands of feet up. Is that New Zealand that it was happening to?
I it might have been New Zealand. I think the article that I had found on that one was from Polygon, and it just kind of cataloged a few of the mistakes. Well, a few more of the mistakes that you would see flying along. Another one was that Buckingham Palace has been replaced with a shopping mall.
Yeah, so it's not a shopping mall, it's more like an apartment complex, like one of those big
Oh,
apartment
yeah, yeah.
complexes that you'd see in a city. But yeah, and then Washington, let's see, Washington D.C. Actually, I'm bringing up the article here on stream really quick. This one's from The Verge, and so yeah, they show Buckingham Palace here. Let me just do this really quick for you, Kyle. I'll drop you the link of what I'm looking at here really quick. There you go. So yeah, so Buckingham Palace is like some sort of like apartment complex slash shopping center or something. And then Washington D.C., the Washington Monument is just a skyscraper, but you can actually see it from the satellite view in the corner, just like pointing down. And then let's see. This one here, apparently this is on the southern coast of California, but it says, by far my favorite Microsoft Flight Simulator quirk is that it doesn't know how to handle palm trees, so Southern California is just full of these terrifying obelisks jutting forth from the pavement like so many teeth. And oh my God, they're just horrible renders, that too. Oh, and then here we go. This is a good one. Some of the glitches can be down to data streaming settings that players pick in Flight Simulator, though. One player discovered that TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville, Florida looks like it had been filled with grass with a sunken office building in the middle, and that is funny looking. That one's towards the bottom of the article. So it's just a giant grass field up top. What looks like it's on a roof or something, and oh, that's funny. Yeah, so Microsoft Flight Simulator is definitely full of those awesome glitches then.
Yeah,
That's so
but
cool.
it's still a great game. My brother's been playing it. I don't know if you. I know some people have been having problems with the real world streaming. My brother said he hasn't had a single one. And he's flown some really long flights already,
Real
and
world in
everything's
reference to
gone real.
actual like real airtime traffic.
Well, yeah, just like I guess they're supposed to be streaming like weather and stuff or whatever, and traffic. Yeah.
So weather hasn't been a problem for me necessarily, but I've been doing most of my flights here out of our hometown,
Uh-huh.
and so the weather here, of course, hasn't been bad. Um, the traffic though hasn't been a problem for me either. But when I flew, as an example, I flew into Denver maybe 2 nights ago, I think. Yeah, it was 2 nights ago I flew into Denver. And when I flew into DIA, it like the only traffic I ran into, like, or came across, at least based on the radio from ATC, was just a single plane, and it just that, ATC had called out and just said, to hold altitude, hold speed, and then they told me to proceed on anyway too, like it would be, but the amount of traffic was not enough. Like there
Right.
didn't seem like there was a lot like you'd expect to see from Denver International Airport. So it is working. I just don't know how well, because
That no,
I don't know.
I did hear a weird one that coincidentally there might be a new form of bullying created from the game,
I'd
and
heard
that's
something too, but
yeah, and that kind of concerned me, just because it some of the real world data is good enough. I know in Cheyenne, my brother said that the real world data is fairly accurate,
hmm.
and everything appears to be as Cheyenne would be for the most part.
Well, so I'll
Um,
counter that. I'm going to say that the actual town is probably based on what I've seen just flying around. I'm probably going to say 2014, maybe. You know, it based on. I don't want to get into the actual features that I'm actually seeing here, just in case anyway. But there are a couple buildings and a couple areas that didn't exist in Cheyenne till around that time. And
That
as
sounds
I'm
fair.
looking around, like I've done quite a few loops around, and I will be perfectly honest. I think a good chunk of things that I've seen thus far put it around probably about 2014 to 2015 when the map data was actually pulled, because there's a lot of things that I'm very used to now that don't exist in the map at all. So there's at least a good 5 to 6 year gap. So
Yeah.
it could even be part of it too. But yeah, the ATC thing I
Well,
haven't had a
that
problem
may
with. Or
explain some of the awkward monolith things just with the old data and whatnot. So,
true, or the fact that they gave us here in Cheyenne a air traffic control tower that doesn't exist. Like it's an air traffic control tower that you'd see out of something like SeaTac or DIA or LAX or something. It's big, like it's a massive tower like that is taller than the Capitol building. Like it's
wow.
super huge, and it's like that's not right. It's about in the spot where the old control tower is, where Dayweather's at now. But yeah, you look up at it, and it's like, oh, that's not there. That's in the right spot, but it's the wrong one. That's wrong. But who knows? Maybe they'll merge with some other map stuff there to make things better as things go on, and they'll get some of the
Yeah.
copyright stuff taken care of. So we have Buckingham Palace, we have the Washington Monument, whatever. Anyway, let's talk about our favorite game of all time, Kyle. And this is the top favorite game of everybody at the NPCs as well, too, regardless of what Preston says. He has a secret love for this one. This one comes to us from Polygon. Untitled Goose Game is getting a second goose and local co-op. Woohoo! Untitled Goose Game is getting a free update on September 23rd. A second Terrible Goose will be added to the game. Yes, this means that Untitled Goose Game will have a local two-player cooperative mode. Now you and a pal can terrorize a village farmer and his neighbors. The new goose is the same species as the original, but it's got its own unique honk, thank goodness, and a more prominent knob on its beak. If you must know, that's called a basal knob. And yes, I googled bump on a goose beak to find this out. Thanks, Polygon, who is the author here on this one. Thank you, Nicole Carpenter, for doing that. Alongside this free update, developer House House is also bringing Untitled Goose Game to new platforms, Steam and itch.io. If a physical copy is more your thing, pre-orders for a physical version of Untitled Goose Game for PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch are open. These are set to be released on September 29th from I Am 8-Bit. So yeah, we actually have a multiplayer to Untitled Goose Game that is on its way to us, and I think that's actually really cool. I think this game will do very well with multiplayer in it. I hope that they've rewritten the challenges though to add a second, for that second goose. You're not just doing the same things that you had been. I just would like to see you do some additional things that do require a second person.
I kind of wish they would definitely add more content to the game. This is a game with so much potential, and I don't want them to go and change too much of it, but change tasks or add more tasks that you could do
Mm-hmm.
just for fun. Yeah, and adding multiplayer, I think it's a first step towards that.
Mm-hmm. I think that is actually great that they are adding it in. Like I said, I think it's cool that it's there. I do wish it was actually online co-op instead of just local. But yeah, the challenges need to be revamped so that way if you do select two-player, then they're tailored to being a two-player experience. Otherwise, what you're talking about is like you're talking about fuel for the speedrunning fire, to have two people be able to be in there and play and to get everything done, as fast as they
Hmm.
can. That exactly. But yeah, that the physical edition actually does look pretty cool though. If you haven't seen it yet, it's like I think what I like the most about it though is that it's got a map of the whole village where everything happens, and that'd be I think that honestly for me that'd be a really neat poster I think to have up somewhere, and I hope that House actually sells that separately at some point in time, because I will get that, I will frame it, and I will put it up here somewhere on wherever I have space on this wall, because I think that's really cool.
Yeah, no, I would definitely be interested in the physical copy just because that was one that I absolutely adored the game just because of the creativity of it, and it's so fun and simple, and I don't know, it's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm. It is. And are you gonna go for the physical edition for Switch or PlayStation or anything?
I'm actually looking it up right now to see. Um, what that entails. Cause I'm thinking about it. I mean, I have the download for Switch, but I mean, it's $40, so
Mm-hmm.
that's not
But I
terrible.
don't think it.
35 on PlayStation. Um, and then of course they do have the soundtrack available on vinyl for 30.
Yeah, see, like right here is the the fold out poster is an 11 by 17 poster. You get an extra sticky official no goose sticker. And then the lovely edition comes with a reversible cover sheet and a sugar based non toxic no vinyl sticker pack in. So that's kind of neat, I guess. And then and then the retail edition that actually comes out. It says right here, in addition to this is from Nintendo Life. It says, addition to this, Direct Feed Games reports that the retail edition will also be launching in North America for $30 on both Switch and PlayStation 4. It says the release will come with the following physical extras: the hand-drawn town map poster, the no goose sticker, and the 24-page leaflet cataloging items worth collecting. So $30 is not even just a collector's edition. $30 will actually get you the neat version that you want. We'll get you everything there, and that's actually kind of cool. That I might actually go buy that. I go pay the money for it, no
Yeah,
problem. For $30, especially at the way these
that's
kids
not.
like this game. Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's not too bad. And like I said, it's a fun, unique game. It's one you can sit down and play in like an hour, and you feel completed. You know.
Yeah, it's true. I just enjoy being able to go up behind that little kid and just honk at him, just piss him off. But all right, let's go ahead and hop in here to our next story. This one's actually been causing a little bit of controversy because there are some people who are watching others for what's happening. But this one comes to us from Kotaku. And Kyle, I'll let you run with this right now as I actually play the advertisement here in the background. But streamers furious after ad company uses Twitch donations to advertise Burger King.
One of the most enjoyable aspects of Twitch is that you can never entirely predict the sort of alchemic reaction a streamer and their audience will create together. Recently, an ad agency representing Burger King decided to cash in on the inherent seeming unpredictability, seemingly without asking anybody. Streamers are, to put it lightly, not pleased. Yesterday evening, ad agency Ogilvy, I'm sorry, I'm butchering that, tweeted out a video demonstrating the results of a campaign by one of its teams, David Madrid. In it, a that company's name, sorry, uh, David employee donated the price of various Burger King items, never more than $5, to streamers who use text to speech programs to read out messages written by fans who give them money. Um, they would then type a message advertising Burger King products you could buy for the price of $5 for a Whopper, fries, a drink, for example. In resulting vi- in the resulting video, the agency clearly wanted to communicate how much the uh, weirded out streamers who did not expect to see Burger King in the chat that day or any day ever. The video depicts streamers with their faces blurred out and their voices altered, saying things like, I am so confused. A little less than halfway into the video, however, one of the streamers, um, Ogilvy David, chose to ambush with its guerrilla marketing campaign, got the heart to issue, listen, are you going to sponsor me or not? Asked them, or asked the anonymous streamer after getting advertised at. Um, and then it kind of shows the tweet there. I don't know if you were playing the tweet or not, but
I was.
the oh, okay. The video ultimately wraps around the scene of the streamers thanking Burger King for giving them $5 or less because anything else would be incredibly bad look. But evidence by streamers' reactions in the video, this was still a very, very bad look. Many streamers, after all, make a large portion of the money off advertisements, both through ads, Twitch runs during the streams, and more. Pertinently, off deals they or agencies managers negotiate with individual brands. These deals can be lucrative, a key part of streamers' livelihood. Ogilvy, a high profile ad agency whose various teams have also worked with companies like Dove and IBM, effectively bypassed the system and use streamers' channels to boost a multi billion-dollar brand for chump change. Then released a video trumpeting that this is a triumph of marketing savvy rather than underhanded tactic many of feel that it is. Since the tweet of the video first went out yesterday evening, streamers have been speaking out against it in mass. This is exceptionally low class. Ben Concarne Cassell said on Twitter, taking advantage of the system meant to support these streamers, utilizing it for big name companies that could easily afford to do it properly, and then bragging about it. Predatory marketing? Cool. Considering the proper channels exist, it's so unfortunate to see a billion-dollar company nickel and dime their ad budget at the expense of content creators. Bottom line, he added in the DM to Kotaku, this is obviously unprofessional and unethical. National Nambi Unicorn Casanova said on Twitter, I don't know how anyone approved this idea. You should have consulted professional streamers before launching this initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, some speculations that the whole video might have been staged, given it was difficult to discern streamers' identities and the gamers they were playing were clearly fake. However, slowly but surely, a trickle of streamers have come forward to say that something similar has recently happened to them. I honestly think the investigation by the FTC, or they should be investigated by the FTC. I think they should be held accountable, and this should be a case study for marketing students in the future that is absolutely unethical. I'm shocked anyone greenlighted this.
Yeah, so this is just crazy, dude.
That's
like
nuts.
Yeah, so
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, so this is crazy here. Like the fact that they were like these weren't as it goes through the list here though. Anyway, too, like you were getting ready to say, is that a lot of people are saying that this was staged. A lot of people are like, oh no, that's not exactly what this is. It's because of course the games in the background of the video are fake. I think the biggest problem with this, though, of course, too, is exactly like someone called them out, is that they shouldn't be nickel and diming their advertisement budgets. Of course, I know advertising's down because of COVID-19, but that is definitely predatory. That is hardcore predatory, and both the ad agency and Burger King, the fact that it had to happen with Burger King's approval to be able to do that.
Yeah, not only
place.
Just predatory, but just petty.
Yeah, they need to actually be like taken down hard. And even like, where is it here? So who's the one that actually, yeah, so the one here I find that's actually interesting is the guy who had actually asked about, if you're going to sponsor me or not. They apparently received donations from Burger King. This is farther on in the article, but the clips didn't make the cut. This just happened to me a few weeks ago. Or let's see, where's the one from Ross? So Ross O'Donovan was formerly one of the Game Grumps as well too, for anybody who happens to watch them. But he said he posted a video of his own interaction with a viewer advertising Burger King. Said it took place about a month or two ago. In it, he goes back and forth with the viewer, mostly making jokes about his time working at Hungry Jack's, which is Burger King's Australian subsidiary, not really playing it at a marketing point. Now O'Donovan is glad he didn't give the marketing company Ogilvy, yeah, whatever they are, apparently looking for.
Yeah, it's easy to butcher that one.
Yeah, so let's see here. Like, he actually clipped out here. If you go a little farther down on this to that actual tweet from Ross, he actually has, I'll clip over to it. He actually has the audio from that interaction, I guess, too. So.
The donation that was using the text of like an advert.
What is going on? $5 to tell you that you can spend $5 and get a
Yeah,
Whopper, small French fries and small drink on the Burger King app with the $5
That's
Whopper
insane.
meal. It seems like a twisted strategy and...
I don't know, man. I mean, I used to work at Hungry Jack's, which is the Australian Burger King.
Did I lose you?
No, I'm still here. I've got the video
And
going where Ross is
look,
talking
I
to
know
Oh, okay.
U.S. versions of donate $1 bajillion to
Yeah, no, it's just insane that they would hijack, and yeah, it's obviously blatantly bragging that they were hijacking people's streams, and these people are totally blindsided.
Yeah,
I was kind of listening to it just beforehand. I listened to the first section, and wow.
Yeah, it's in the world of people who do in the world of what's going on here.
Could you imagine if you were calling out donations and all of a sudden you had that happen? That would be terrible. I would be ashamed to be streaming at that point. And, it would be because my hijacked was streamed, or it was...
Your stream was hijacked? You didn't...
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, you
got discombobulated there.
All right, man.
Yeah, and, I would wonder about my security for my streamers as well at that point,
Yeah.
Oh man, that is super shady in my opinion.
Well, I mean, imagine
that's way too crossing the line.
Imagine I hate to take this to the extreme scenario, and if anybody wants to throw me out there, throw me under the bus for this one, by all means go for it. But it almost makes me think that it's like say you see someone that's on the side of the road, asking for money and that too, and it's like, well, I'll donate $5 to you. God, dogs are running around down here again. I'll donate $5 to you if you hold this sign for us for 8 hours. We'll get you this advertisement out, or we'll get you to hold this sign here, and I'll just give you $5. And oh, hey, by the way, you can come back in and spend that on us because that's what it costs to actually buy this thing here. And that homeless person's now like, oh, cool, I just made this money, or this person on the street that's asking for money and that too is now holding this sign up that says, go to Burger King and buy the Whopper meal, whatever, for $5 now. And it to me, it seems the same way. It seems predatory. You're preying on people who are trying to make a living with doing what they're doing. And
right.
You're blindsiding them by not following the normal chain of command here. Because imagine like someone as big as like Ninja, whose sponsor, of course, is one of his biggest sponsors. I think is actually his biggest is Red Bull. Imagine him on stream having that Red Bull fridge to the side of him like he always does, and literally that's it. They don't give him anything. He just has a whole case of Red Bull, and it turns out that it's like he might have one or two over time. It's like, but it turns out the majority of the stuff in the fridge expires, and he's not drinking it, and then it's just this fridge that's just eating up power, and it's costing him power to keep this thing running. Imagine if Red Bull was just like, well, that's how we're paying you, and that's how you're advertising. We just give you this free stuff. We don't care if you don't like it. We're just going to keep giving it to you because that's the deal. No. He'd have kicked their ass to the curb as soon as possible. So I'm hoping Twitch gets involved and keeps an eye on this, because I would hate to see that for anybody ever. I don't care if you're the lowest streamer or the highest streamer. That's just truly predatory. It needs to be investigated by the FTC big time. And those companies need to be held to a high standard of like, well, if you want to advertise like this, you need to go through the right chains. You need to set up deals, or you need to advertise like everybody else.
Well, and especially you think about it, on Twitch's non-premium service, don't they have ads that play pre-stream anyway?
So if you are a subscriber to a stream, you don't see the ads, obviously. That's only on per stream. If you don't subscribe, you see pre-roll ads before you actually get into the stream itself. And then if you're in the stream, like say the person takes a break, I've got to imagine there's some sort of trigger in Twitch to actually say, okay, play an ad now, because if they walk away for like 60 seconds, what will happen is that the stream itself will minimize to the top right-hand corner of the screen, and then you'll actually see the advertisement. So you can see what's happening in the stream at the break, but that's it.
What I'm getting at is, why was Burger King not able to just pay for that instead of, hijack countless streamers, ads, or their donation space as ad space?
Because what it cost them to do that
That's
versus actually
ridiculous.
getting regular advertisements out there. Like you're talking animated stuff. You're talking about, B-roll video footage of a Whopper, the patties and the bun and all that falling from the sky or whatever and coming together is one thing. You're talking about them spending $10,000 to do that versus probably like $500 to $1,000.
But obviously, they had to go through the effort to hijack the footage of those streamers and pay for
The marketing
the
company did.
software
Yeah,
or and the hardware
Yeah.
to blur them out and obviously make the purple splash screen with the moving text
By
and
the way,
everything. So
by the way, if you notice,
it's just
though,
sad.
by the way, if you actually watched the video from them, though, I was playing it in the background, so I don't know if you actually watched the full advertisement, though. If you actually watch it, though, they weren't using a bot. No, they weren't using a bot. They created an account. They used the actual donation function within Twitch, and they went and just did it. So it wasn't a bot.
Right.
It was just they copy and pasted the
I wasn't
text.
saying it was a bot.
Right, I'm just saying, yeah. So the person's there, and they're actually screen capping everything, like we do when we're showing the articles via our, the capture that I've got here, the window capture in OBS. It was just the same thing, and they just recorded it, and then they just shopped out what they needed. So it's regardless, it's very predatory, and it's terrifying now for everybody else who might see this as a good idea.
Hats off to you, Burger King, for taking advantage of people.
Yeah, way to go. Especially in the midst of a pandemic when everybody's trying to figure out, how the next way is to make money. And that's not the way to
and
do it.
especially, when so many people are trying to make money, because they've potentially lost their job because of the pandemic. Just sad.
It is. I agree 100%. It is. So we're going to hop in here to the next story, I guess. It's not really a story. It's just the actual video of it itself. But this is actually...
craftsmanship.
Oh, that was loud. I didn't want to do that already, but whatever. So this one's talking about here. So Microsoft did a little video talking about the next-gen UI for the Xbox Series X or the Xbox Series. And Kyle, I'm sure you probably watched the video.
I actually haven't had a chance yet because it's been kind of a crazy week for me.
No worries, man. So it's just 3 minutes, and honestly, the easiest way to sum it up is that it's not really changing much. For what we're used to on the Xbox One right now, it's going to look very similar to it, if not maybe a little bit cleaner, but it's going to be almost one for one. So as soon as you sign into an Xbox Series X and you're navigating through the dashboard, it's going to look the same.
There was one feature that I was super excited about, and it has to do with the backgrounds. And I don't know why they didn't have it on the Xbox One. Because it should have been there. I understand maybe not the 360, but the animated backgrounds. Easily, I think it could have been done on the Xbox One. It'll be a cool feature on the Series X. I wonder if, you'll be able to have like more than just, the like animated swirls. I hope it'll be more of something along the lines that actually animates like like you'll see wind and like blow like trees or something in the background. That would be cool.
What I would kind of hope here though is that like the animated part would be great. I think the biggest thing I'd love to actually see is that you could change the boot animation, just because it's like I think it'd be neat to have a Series X and then boot with the original Xbox animation. But one of the big features, of course, that they talked about here is that they're trying to, I hate to use the word synergize because that's such a silly word, especially in the world of tech, but that's kind of what it is. They're trying to sync up the actual experience and the environment of the app on Windows, the app on iOS, the app on Android, the actual dashboard on the Xbox itself. They're trying to unify everything into just one thing. And of course, as the video is showing
but
here,
that also kind of makes sense, with them trying to bring out the streaming and maybe unify that into a more cohesive Microsoft family,
Yeah, and so of course with that unification though is there's going to be at least usability though is that you're going to hop onto your phone to navigate through and look at stuff, which is great, especially if you're a Series X with your Series X and using Game Pass and the game streaming. That's going to help at least for usability as you continue on, using everything. The problem though that you're going to end up probably running across is just I think some more like fatigue on things, especially if their usability, like they showed off in the video, was that you could take a capture on your Xbox and it immediately sends it to your phone and says, hey, you can share this now if you want to, are people going to get the fatigue of just like, oh, here it is on my phone now. Okay. I took the capture. Do I want to share it yet? No, not yet. Now you've got this thing just kind of like bugging you on your phone to say, hey, let's do this. Let's go on. It's just a little nitpicking thing, but it is good though that Microsoft is actually looking at everything and saying, how can we make this look the same across the board, because the Xbox app on PC needs some work. The fact that it's like I wasn't signed into it, I was like, why the hell can I not install Flight Simulator from Game Pass? And it's like, oh, I'm not signed in. It didn't sign in with me when I signed in, to my computer. So I had to go in, separately and sign in. On top of it, it's just getting things installed and actually kind of looking around at stuff, because the dashboard on there looks nothing like it does on the Xbox. It's a little more clunky. It's clean. It looks clean, but it is clunky. So
Well, and if you recall, just like, what was it, 4 or 5 months ago, we had to use 2 different apps for the Xbox on our computers.
We did.
Because there was the console app, or the console companion app, and then there was the Xbox gaming app. And I'm going to say the Xbox gaming app was in beta for like how many years?
It still is. The actual icon on my desktop still says Xbox beta on it.
Does it? Yeah. So
yeah, because it must be just part of it though, because of still a lot of the unifying stuff with game streaming.
Yeah, but it was only 4 or 5 months ago that they actually combined the that app with the console companion app. And I still think it only works about half the time.
Right.
I had issues with either app syncing up properly when my console was on. And it does a little bit more effectively, but it still has some cohesion issues.
It does. Hopefully they'll have that all cleaned up by the time the Series X launches to sort out all of the little kinks and bugs between all the different apps, or at least just make it one big app. So, but let's move on into our next story here, Kyle. I will let you take this one because I didn't play the original, but I definitely think I'm excited for this one, just as next gen stuff carries on. But this one comes to us from Esports. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War officially unveiled and revealed coming next week. So Kyle, we have a new Call of Duty coming. Tell us all about it.
Call of Duty Black Ops is back again. After months of rumors and speculation, Treyarch officially revealed Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War today. That being, what was it, 2-3 days ago, I want to say? The 19th. So
2 days ago. Yep.
Yeah. And it's likely coming out in just a few months. The game is the new entry in the Black Ops series, but it's not exactly a sequel. Like last year's Modern Warfare, the new entry seems like it borrows characters and themes from the original, but in an all-new reimagined story. The trailer released today is teasing something big happening in Verdansk on August 26th, which is 1 week from today, inside Call of Duty Warzone. The full game will be revealed then. Over the past few weeks, Treyarch has involved content creators in a complicated, convoluted alternate reality game to help reveal the game. It included sending out an old-fashioned slide projector to YouTubers like Noah J456, who then had to solve intricate Cold War-themed puzzles to further the cause. The entire ARG lasted well over a week and took the work of many to solve. Well over 100,000 viewers routinely tuned in to watch multiple streamers work together to try to crack the codes. The game involved in-game locations in both Black Ops 4 and Warzone. Treyarch's original Black Ops series spanned 4 games, and it featured content. It featured connected story campaigns, addictive multiplayer, and a legendary zombie gameplay mode. The game is also being developed in cooperation with Raven Software, another development veteran of the series. Stay tuned for more information about the new Black Ops series.
Yes. So here, of course, that everybody can probably see, of course, streaming is this is what's supposedly going to be the cover art for Black Ops Cold War. Big thing, of course, that it looks like it is like I'm actually going to say this right now, Kyle. Of course, we don't generally talk politics on the stream at all. Of course, the only things that we've really talked about have been, like in the news, we've talked about like the tariffs and how they affect the video game industry. We talk about Apple, of course, being investigated by the FTC. We talk about, we've talked a couple of things, at least as long as politics relate to the technology and the video games, though, too, and how they're going to affect the everyday player from us to everybody else who's watching this and beyond. This really, like the full trailer of this, the little teaser thing, really makes me feel like they're trying to dig into a lot of the fears and concerns of what's going on right now in the United States, especially between the United States and Russia, as we all know in politics right now, of course, has been a very big deal for the last 4 years. So I'm not going to really go beyond a lot of that, but the way the trailer came across for me is that it really felt like they were trying to dig into a lot of those fears, kind of almost as like a marketing tactic. And if I'm wrong, again, like I said, people can call me out and say, no, that's stupid, you're wrong, what are you talking about? They weren't like that at all. It was just a feeling, was all it was. So yeah, we're getting a new Black Ops game, and it looks like, based on what we talked about, Kyle, is that I think what we were talking about might actually come to light, is that the way we launch into Call of Duty right now for Modern Warfare, where we see Modern Warfare, we see Warzone, and then we actually see the store. I think we're going to be probably seeing the same thing for this, for where it's going to be Modern Warfare, or there's going to be just a dedicated Call of Duty launcher, and you're going to have Modern Warfare, you're going to have the new Black Ops game, you're going to have Warzone, and then the store. I think you're going to see all of that as just one big like Call of Duty launcher, or a sub launcher of Battle.net. And just like they said there, of course, in the article and I wasn't actually aware of this. I knew about the red key cards. I know about the phone calls and that too, but people have been putting this together. And I guess there's been something in there, which, hey, maybe that was the whole thing, that the game breaking bug that we were kind of coming across in that with Warzone was tied into the way they handled not only the train, but the code to reveal Black Ops. So
it's a good possibility. And, I kind of figured really that the phone calls and stuff, even slightly before, because it was about time for that Black Ops title to be coming about. I kind of figured it was a tie-in when I started randomly hearing phone calls. And it was, at first, it was like once in a blue moon, and I was like, what the heck is that? What's going on? Is someone in the building? And I'd start freaking out in multiplayer and damn near give the whole team away. But
it's fun.
Yeah. It's kind of a unique way. I really like when that they've been able to kind of do this, because it seems like recently when companies have tried, especially game companies, when they've tried to do big reveals like this that have these big secrets, and they have they send out stuff for people to solve puzzles, or go geocache, or play an alternate reality game to figure out the reveal of it. I think that's really cool. And lately, I don't think we've, in the last couple of years, because of how I don't know how public the internet is, and how easily people can access stuff. We've been able to do that, so I think it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe that's one good thing that came out of the pandemic, if nothing else, that we got a cool alternate reality game that
we did. We did. A lot of people.
Maybe something that people can look at and go, "Hey, we can just lay off and let game developers do some cool stuff like this in the future.
Well, be careful. Be careful with that phrase, lay off, though, Kyle. Be careful, because we don't want to lay off people. We just want to more so
No,
let them have
we
fun
just
with what
want
they're
the
doing.
people to lay off the game companies to not put so much stress on them, so maybe they can do cool stuff.
I'll leave
And-
you with it. Any fire that comes
Yeah.
this way, I'm going to point right back at you. So,
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, they could send the NPCs some cool stuff.
that'd be neat too. All right, let's move on here. We are only a couple stories away from the end of this, so let's carry on with stuff. This comes to us from Games Radar Plus. EA Access merges with Origin Access as EA Play, and EA Play rebrands as EA Play Pro.
About time.
It's all over the place with these guys. Electronic Arts has announced it is merging EA Access and Origin Access into a single service called EA Play. If that sounds familiar to you already, no, you're not getting confused. EA does indeed already have an event called EA Play. That too is going to be rebranded though, so from here on in, the event formerly known as EA Play will now be known as EA Play Live. Origin Access Premier, on the other hand, will change to EA Play Pro. The EA Access and Origin subscription game services will be getting a fresh new name and look starting August 18th, so a couple days ago. EA Access and Origin Access Basic will become EA Play, and Origin Access Premier will change to EA Play Pro. All the great benefits you love, access to the library top titles, early game trials, 10% membership discount, are going anywhere. In fact, are adding even more in the coming months, starting with exclusive in-game challenges and monthly reward drops for members on select titles. So the change went live, of course, on August 18th, after which members will be able to access exclusive in-game challenges, blah, 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 the same thing we already talked about. So EA, of course, is just really, rebranding everything on their side to be able to say at least, hey, guys, this is, we're too scattered. And the fact, though, that up until I read that story, I didn't know they had two separate, subscription services. That's stupid. I assume the EA one, the EA Access was specific to consoles, and the Origin Access was specific to PC, right?
Game companies should the execs should not use heavy drugs, because then they come up with these convoluted ideas that they should have all these membership and subscription services. It's a bit ridiculous, and yeah, I think they've had those for since the second year of Xbox is when they had the second one. I think
the EA Access.
Yeah, the EA Access.
Let's see.
Yeah, since the second year of the one.
Yeah, so it's of course the Wikipedia article all about it is updated. Yeah, so EA Access was pitched. So it's been since at least the Xbox One.
Oh, it has been since the Xbox One.
Yeah, not the original Xbox, but only Xbox One. So apparently it debuted in beta on Xbox One. EA Access did in July 29th, 2014. So only about half a year after the Xbox One launched.
Oh, wow.
And then went full about 2 weeks after. Sony decided not to make it available. And then, Origin Access was specific to PC. So, okay, I mean that works, I guess. That's on them, but again, for them to have done two separate things, silly, but at least they're merging it now into one, so good on them, I guess.
That and the whole name thing, that I don't know.
It's silly, but we've at least got some other things to talk about, which is some great news coming up with the grand release of the next PlayStation. Kyle, tell us about this one from Engadget, where the PS5 developers explain how the DualSense controller changes gameplay. This one's a little long articles, but we'll have some fun with this one. So, Kyle, what's going on with them?
So the first PS5 global ad hints at the changes. With the PlayStation 5 launch getting closer, we're beginning to learn how the console will change gameplay. Developer explains how they're using the new PS5 DualSense wireless controller, adaptive triggers, and haptic feedback. In games like Deathloop, developers use the adaptive triggers to make weapons feel different from one another, and when a weapon jams, the triggers will jam too. In Ghostwire Tokyo, the adaptive triggers give a sense of recoil, and in Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, the adaptive triggers are used when your fire and dual-barreled shotgun when you fire a dual-barreled shotgun type weapon, as you pull the triggers, you'll fire from one barrel and feel the resistance halfway down the trigger. If you pull the trigger through the resistance, you'll fire from both barrels at the same time. As for the DualSense haptic feedback capabilities, the developer behind Demon Souls used the tech to make the game feel grittier, darker, and deadlier. You'll feel every blow and be able to react to the game even faster. In Spider-Man Morales, the haptic feedback hints at which direction attacks are coming from and let you feel Spider-Man's bioelectric crackle across the controller. Developers discussed these and other haptic and adaptive trigger capabilities alongside the first global ad for PlayStation 5. As the ad says, PS5 will introduce players to a world where you can feel force at your fingertips.
Well, that's going to be an interesting one, I think, for them. That at least they're offering this a little bit of a different stance compared to the way the Xbox is with.
Well, and that whole shotgun thing, that kind of goes back to, the difficulty, back, what was it, like 6 months ago, I was talking on the news, if, they put resistance on something, if it was a harder or more difficult weapon to use, that kind of makes sense because, that's how some double-barreled shotguns operate. So,
yeah.
Neat.
Yeah, I think that is cool that at least this is something to include in there and offer at least a different way to interact with the games themselves.
I also wonder what the cost of the actual controllers by themselves will be and what kind of warranty they'll have.
Oh, yeah, because you imagine it's like, why is this resisting so much? And someone's going to literally tear apart their controller or push down on that button so hard they're going to break it.
Right.
So I bet you the warranty is going to be a little bit more obscene when it comes to that too. But yeah, this, like, I'm actually really excited to kind of see this in games though, to offer it. I really don't like the fact that the Dark Souls devs from Software are definitely like, oh, well, hey, guess what? We definitely made this game a little bit harder. With Demon Souls, we're gonna make this so it's a little bit more deadlier with them. And I'm like, now I don't want to play this game anymore.
Yeah, it's already hard enough that I want to pee my pants. Now you make the controller haptic feedback with the game, and I'm definitely going to pee my pants.
I think I see what's going to happen instead is that I feel like the controller's haptic feedback would be so strong. Like, say you're pushing down on the trigger to actually like swing like a bigger weapon, like a claymore, and imagine though that's like it kicks back so hard on your finger that it like busts your finger. Like you can't actually do it just right. Like say like how in when you're swinging a sword around, of course, the walls and ground can definitely be your enemy too. Like when you're trying to swing, you hit them hard enough. Imagine hit one of those and that haptic feedback on there flings your finger back and busts it like right off your hand. It's like, oh,
well,
yeah,
I could see it like if you had like a super heavy weapon and it has an arc swing. It's like super, super hard to like push down on the controller like halfway through the swing, but then all of a sudden it's like you like slam down on the controller really hard because you get to the peak of the swing, and then all of a sudden the weight of the sword takes over.
Yeah, that's what really terrifies me. Or the fact that, like, imagine if an enemy hits you, the controller just like gets up and then throws itself at you to like knock you out. Just like, yeah, you want your immersive 3D audio and your experience? Yeah, let's couple this with PSVR and you're going to die. You are going to actually be dead.
You're going to get PSVR that gives you a head injury when you get headshot.
Exactly. So circling back around to our previous story here that we were talking about with EA Play, really quick before we go into our last one. So Alex here on Facebook commented, he said, the sheer number of streaming services we have to deal with for games or otherwise makes me think of the market oversaturation that led to the video game crash of '83. That's very true. I think where a lot of it's going to really couple is that with Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, I think we wouldn't necessarily have an issue. But the fact that Amazon's got a game that is working on their own games, they haven't announced a streaming service or anything. You got Stadia with their streaming service. And the fact, though, that it's like EA Play now, the whole conglomeration of it, and Xbox Game Pass, they are streaming services. They're subscription services, not necessarily streaming services. But they hit a different market compared to, like, say, the video services that are out there where you're subscribing to Hulu and Netflix and Disney Plus, and the list can go on. I think the bigger difference though is that there's not as many of them. Whereas like the streaming that you see for like Game Pass, for game streaming, of course, is bundled in with it. Game Pass, of course, allows you to download games for X amount of money a month anyway. EA Play is the same way. PlayStation does it really have anything? It has PlayStation Now, but
Yes,
it's not
PlayStation
really
Now.
it's not really as like it's there, but it doesn't seem like it's as big as these other ones are either. Stadia, of course, is really kind of one of
I would
those.
argue that it's
think it
almost
is?
bigger in ways.
I think their
Yeah.
catalog is much bigger, but I don't know about user base on it though. I have
don't
to go back
either.
and look at it too. But I think Alex
But
is
I
probably
think
going the right way.
I think one of the things about the game services versus like your television services and stuff is each of the game services is a little bit more niche.
True.
EA obviously has their EA titles, but tends to focus more on sports. I mean, obviously they do have like their Plants vs Zombies that's on there, but it's going to be mostly sports titles, or racing,
Yeah.
Whereas Xbox, they're going to focus a lot on their game studios that they've accumulated. PlayStation is going to focus on a lot of their exclusive titles. Stadia, it's going to focus on a lot of AAA titles, but also their own titles. It just kind of it depends on what's your flavor, I think.
I think you're right on that one. I think it's going to cater to those individual like the strengths of it. Like Microsoft's biggest strengths, of course, for game streaming are more likely than not going to be their first party titles. EA,
But that being
same way.
said, I think the infrastructure is there that some of these smaller ones could be absorbed, possibly later on. I'm not saying that, EA is a strong company. We're not going to see that anytime soon. But if there was another company that wanted to absorb that infrastructure, it could possibly happen in the future. And it's there to be absorbed.
Right.
So,
all right.
And someone could possibly utilize it differently. So,
true. That's absolutely true. We're just going to have to see who else comes up out of this one. And, I think when you're seeing a market disruption, especially like where like the market disruption is more of just stacking up and offering too many choices for people and you're not actually building the player base. I think compared to like the market oversaturation that we saw in 83, I think what you're going to end up actually like, I don't think you're going to see it because what you're actually looking at more so is more of a digital crash than you are a physical crash because you don't see Stadia controllers stocked in Best Buy or Walmart or Target or anywhere else. You actually have to get those from Google. Okay.
See, and even that during this time, it'd be hard to say that we're leading into that because there's so many people turning to gaming as a form of entertainment to disconnect from the world right now.
Exactly. Yeah, especially when everything kicked off and Animal Crossing was, just came out too. So yeah, but I think more so on the streaming side, you're not going to really see the crash as much. I think the only thing that would really kill it is if everybody went that way. If Microsoft went 100% streaming with no actual physical device in your house, if Sony did the same thing, if Nintendo did it, that's when you're going to start running into it. But the fact that they still have physical, tangible things and they're not putting all their emphasis into one thing and they're diversifying is going to keep that from actually happening. Stadia will crash. Whatever Amazon might do will go. I don't see NVIDIA's GeForce Now actually sticking around for too long. But at least until maybe Steam possibly offers, like Valve offers their own thing through Steam. But I don't think you're going to see a major crash like that, though. I really don't. But let's move into our last story here before we all crash and collapse here. This one comes to us from IGN. Black Myth Wukong developer responds to huge popularity of first trailer. And Kyle, I'm going to fully admit to you right now, I have yet to watch this trailer.
It's a neat one. If you want to go ahead and roll it, I'll cover the article. It's super cool looking.
By all means, man.
Yeah. Before August 20, Game Science's Black Myth Wukong was a practically unknown project. 24 hours later, it was IGN's biggest news story of the day. Had garnered over 10 million views on Chinese video sites. What is that? Bilibili alone, and was earning praise from across the internet. Game Science founder Feng Ji has now responded to the huge sudden popularity of the game. Said the team will now hide to continue development and apologize for problems that made it into the pre-alpha gameplay. Which, if you look at the gameplay, that's awful polished for pre-alpha. Writing on Weibo and translated by Reset Era member Nightingale, and confirmed by IGN. The developer explained that the 13 minutes of gameplay used to introduce the game, which you can watch below, were released to be an honest but about the game, as well as help attract more potential employees to join his company. He adds that the team has been happy with the explosive popularity of the trailer, but makes clear that they won't let it get to their heads, and even asked viewers to forget the footage as it doesn't represent their best work. In fact, Feng Ji spends most of his post pointing out what was wrong with the trailer, from the low frame rate in the scene where Wukong takes a crowd of heavenly warriors to how the water shown in the gameplay displays no physical properties. He also apologizes for the soundtrack not quite matching up with the actions. He closes the post by saying that the team will now hide again to continue development, meaning we're unlikely to see much more gameplay in the near future. While the game's sudden legion of fans will likely be sad to hear that there won't be more to feast their eyes on, it's heartening to hear that the team's been embodied to work on Black Myth. Here's hoping it doesn't take too long to reach us. The game looks really, really cool, I think. I'm getting some maybe light RPG vibes, definitely some like hack and slash vibes. I had heard that they're trying to make this into a longer game, though, something like 30 hours or more. So I don't know. It'd be kind of cool to see what they do to extend that type of gameplay, especially, because it does seem, as far as it goes, your average like 15-20 hour gameplay, but I don't know. I'd still like to see more of it, and maybe even play a demo when it hits. But if they say they're going to be hiding, I can imagine that we won't see anything for probably 3-4 years.
Right. So is this based on the myth that Dragon Ball was based on? The Monkey King and that?
I believe so.
Because I'm getting some vibes of that, just, looking at kind of the, like, I only know a little bit about the myth itself, though, too, and how Dragon Ball was written anyway, but this is definitely, so this is running on a PC, though. Like, this is actually on PC, because some of the stuff that has come up for, like, interaction with, like, he picked up a, some sort of, like, fire staff or something, like some fire-bladed staff, but he actually had to hit E to pick it up. But this is really...
Yeah.
Like, this looks gorgeous. Like, this looks
even for
really
like a and this, like they said in the article, pre-alpha. Wow, woo woo.
Mm-hmm. Like this, I mean, for where they're at least in the development of this is on point. And I like the fact, though, too, that he could actually change into this Cicadia and actually use that to get away and such. But yeah, this is cool.
It definitely looks like it has some really cool gameplay. And the way that the cicada moves and everything, it's almost like they took notes from what was it, Bee Simulator, to get the movement and the way it looks down. But just everything in the gameplay, like the animations and stuff, it looks too polished to be pre-alpha. Another thing that I'd also heard is that the gentleman, I'm trying to remember what his name was. Uh, Let me skim the article and find his name again. But I guess he is a former Tencent employee that made his own studio. So
I mean, if he made a lot of money working at Tencent as a developer, that's pretty neat, and then went and did this. But I think, honestly, like this.
So obviously he has a little bit of pedigree to him too.
I don't know if I'd agree like this has like a Dark Souls vibe to it or anything, because there are some people who have been
I don't know
saying
about that.
This just seems more like some of the actual fighting, of course, feels like Dynasty Warriors, and that too, like the mob type fighting. But this is neat.
I don't know. I did get maybe a little bit of Sekiro from it.
True, I can see some of that, but more like in the fantasy setting than anything. Where Sekiro tried
the fantasy.
To say,
and maybe a little bit in the combat. And I guess Sekiro was one of the games that they did play and kind of glean things from in development in Wukong. But who knows what we'll see develop even further, if that was just one of the handfuls of games that they gleaned information from. And we've got so many new games coming out. If this game is going to be something that launches 2, 3, 4 years down the line, they have a whole library ahead of them that they could kind of put more to maybe make this really shine on a next gen console or a really badass gaming PC.
Right, and I think that, like they said, like the way the demo looked, of course, is it was being made on PC. So I've got to imagine that this is going to be like, I can imagine like RTX enabled. I think that the actual environment that they're going into with this definitely lends to the lighting that they could put in there, to give that dynamic lighting. But that, and then even like I ended the video already, of course, but he's getting into battles with some sort of like wolf creature there, but the actual like fur effects on there, of course, a little bit of tweaking, but that still looked really good, especially if you're in like that really like fast-paced combat scenario too. Then you don't obviously want the fur texture to be the best and the greatest in there, but you'd want it to at least look like fur. So that's just a little bit there, but I didn't see a lot of the stuff, at least in that little bit of the alpha footage there, that scared me. That looks like, if that can come to the States, that's going to be a fun game. That is going to be a game that
and you think about some of the games that have come out recently, and I'm not trying to like bully even non AAA titles or whatnot, but there's been some shovelware that it not nearly that polished even for a beta or a final release. So it's kind of cool.
It is, and it is going to be one that I will pick up once more information comes out. So that's everything, of course, for us in the news, ladies and gentlemen. It has been definitely a fun one here. Now I got to fly floating around my fucking microphone. Get out of here. They've been horrible this year. I don't know what, or at least this part of the year. I don't know what's going on. But that is it, everybody, for this weekly news roundup for the NPCs. So thank you so much, everybody, of course, for tuning in and hanging out with us here. If you are watching us, of course, on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button so that way when our next live stream comes up. We're normally on Friday around 8 p.m. Mountain Time, so you'll see usually something there either when we go live or when we have it scheduled. If you're on Facebook and watching this as well too, make sure to follow us there on Facebook, so when you see us go live with the podcast and or when the podcast drops, and of course we're dropping anything else including this, you'll at least be notified that as well too. Our homepage, of course, for our podcast is anchor.fm/the-npcs-podcast. We got links to all the different platforms we're supported on. I think we're up to about 9 platforms now, including Anchor. So it's really neat for how far we're distributed out. So please make sure to follow us on there. Of course, our other social media, we're also on Twitter. So look for us there on the at the NPCs podcast if that is the one you use instead. Make sure to follow us there too. I'm really terrible at handling a lot of the social media stuff, but I'm trying to get better, so I'm sorry. I'll get better at it, I promise. New podcast, of course, coming up this week. Be on the lookout, of course, for Tuesday, Thursday for the What Are You Playing and our new topic podcast, too. We did just this last week drop our topic podcast on top fighting games, which is actually a really fun one that we didn't have any crazy battles over, but it was definitely a fun one for sure. So please make sure to go check that one out on anchor.fm. Again, everybody, thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you all in the next live stream. Have a good night.
Later.